Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse introduces a new gadget that may unseat the web slinger as the most important device in the Spider-Verse. With only a few frames of reference to go on, I've built my own version of this device with the real-life ability to transport wares between the Spider-Verse. Grab your tights and get ready to dive into this ultimate Spider-Man prop build. I'm Jonathan Douglas, and this is Prop Shop. In 2018, the Academy Award-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse captivated my entire family. We were truly spellbound by the amazing animation style, the awesome music, and Miles Morales' unique story. Since then, we've been eager to find a Spider-Man project for me to work on. And Across the Spider-Verse has introduced an epic prop that's pivotal in the new movie. The Spider-Man wrist controller, or Portal Watch, has the ability to transport its wearer to different Spider-Verses. And I think we can build a physical version of that prop that can do the same thing for our fans. My plan is to build a version of the Portal Watch that we can take to Regal's 4DX screening of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in downtown New York City. I want this prop to not only look screen accurate, but also include a way for the wearer to use it to control their environment. Our Union Square Theater hosting this screening has one of the most immersive digital lobbies in the country, and that provides us with an amazing opportunity to get interactive in a way never done before. Our goal is to build functionality into this prop that will allow audiences in New York City to take control of the digital screens around them so it appears like they're transported between Spider-Verses at the touch of a button. I start all my movie prop builds by obtaining as much source material as possible. Even with limited references, I could tell this device had several key components. First, it has an open and a closed state. To open, the digital screen slides out of the unit and a small door opens. It also sports a wristband and everyone's favorite, a big red button. That means that my build will need to have a slide-out mini digital display running animation like we see in this reference photos. It'll also need a door that opens to reveal the screen, working buttons, and a wristband that looks solid but also allows users of different sizes to wear it. After reviewing all the available images of the Portal Watch, I used materials I had on hand to work out the size and the shape of the unit. I used EVA foam, a variety of plastics, and even a wooden placeholder for the digital screen to make models. This rough mock-up gives me a very good idea of the shape and the size of the controller, but none of these materials will work for the final prop. For that, I'm thinking 3D modeling and printing. With all that in mind, let's take a look at how we got it done. So this is my first attempt at using just materials I had on hand, PVA plastic and EVA foam. This is my first attempt at creating the pieces. I've got a wooden piece that's going to be a stand-in for the screen. We're going to have to use a screen that's flat. And that means that our profile needs to hide this flat screen inside that shape. So the thickness of the device is going to be determined by how thin we can keep this screen. We're going to transfer that to 3D modeling and see if we can come up with a design for that. There are two great free modeling tools I strongly recommend. Tinkercad is a free web-based app for modeling simple shapes and items. It's also a great place to first learn 3D modeling. Even my kids use the software, and they love printing out stuff that they've modeled in 3D. Fusion 360 is a much more robust 3D modeling program, and Fusion 360 has a hobbyist license you can get to use the software for free. I've leveraged both of these softwares as I've worked on the Portal Watch. So an important part of 3D modeling is deciding how to break up the full prop into individual parts that can allow for assembly. For example, we have to take into account the need to access the back side of the main button so we can wire things up. So that front panel of the unit will need to be separated from the main body of the piece. We'll also need to carve out hollow spaces for the wristband so that we can hide electronics and wiring if necessary. The parts are then the face plate, where the buttons are, the main body of the Portal Watch, a rack to hold the screen, a cap for the top of that rack, the door pieces, a cuff piece, and the two buttons. To ensure that all the parts connect correctly, can house the electronics, and fit our users, I printed out multiple copies of each of the 3D designs, then made any necessary adjustments and printed them again. An average print of any of the main pieces takes between 3 and 5 hours on my Ender 3 printer. Once I'm sure the design and the sizing works, I'll have all these parts printed in resin. While my filament printer is great for many things, it's still not as high resolution as a resin printer. Printing in resin also allows for very easy modification through sanding and filling when we get to finishing. And here's our 3D printed faceplate. You can see the screen fits in, and we've hidden that very flat screen in a rounded form. The screen can slide in and out, so it can slide out when the door is open, and when the door is closed, the screen is collapsed. So we have a lot of test pieces we've been printing out on the 3D printer at low resolution, some wooden placeholders for our digital screen, but wanted to show off one of the things we got finished today, which is this lovely sound, which means that the actual switch is installed for the activation. The button is actually underneath this panel, where the on-off switch, the little tiny white button, will turn the device on and off, and then this button will go ahead and activate the interactive display. To add the tiny animated digital display in the prop, I turned to a good friend. I met up with him in his shop. So I'm here with my friend Chris Dotson, fellow maker, also signage expert. So I'm gonna need some help on two things with this upcoming build.
Okay.
You know, we've been talking about the portal watch that I'm building from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I need, the first thing is a small 4-inch screen that I can use in the prop, but I wanna keep it as thin as possible so that I can keep the controller tight to the wrist. So you've been looking at options. I see that they're out here. What have you found?
We've got a few. So thin and small, you would think would be an easy combination, but it's not. So after going through the entire internet and ChatGPT, I found a few little screens.
Right, yeah.
They're the right size, but they've got
thickness. These big old pins on them.
And they're not easy to get without these. And the thickness with that didn't make it practical.
Yeah.
So I found some thinner screens.
Oh, those are very thin.
And this one actually is flexible.
That's awesome.
This is as small as they make it though.
Oh,
so
my.
I really wanted that size.
Yeah, right, in that.
Because you could actually bend it and
curve.
So we'll do this for something in the future. But what I ended up with is this 4-inch Android tablet device. It's not a phone, it's not a tablet.
4-inch Android tablet. This has a built-in battery.
It's got a battery.
With a charger, so it's all there. The OS is there. All we have to do is download apps that we want to use to play the content we want.
Right.
This is about twice as thick as I've been planning. So I'm going to have to go back and change the model.
Thin.
Yeah. But I think that that's the right way to go. So problem solved on the screen for the device.
Okay.
Good. The other thing I need help with is I want this controller, when fans are wearing it, I want them to be able, when they're standing in the lobby, to push a button and have the digital displays all around them change.
Okay.
So some button on the wrist controller, not connected with wires, to the digital screens at Union Square. Is that even possible?
Yeah, it's possible. So what I would probably do is some sort of wireless relay.
Okay.
That's a radio frequency, so you have the relay sitting on the side with the bright sign player plugged into it.
Right.
That's powering the screens. And
so
then,
like a garage door motor that's waiting for a signal.
It's just waiting for a signal from that little controller. And the controller's like a key fob. So once you take the casing apart, you're down to something really thin.
So it'll fit in the wrist controller easily.
So it'll fit in the controller, and it's a single button with a battery.
Single button. So I understand how it's going to work, but you're the area expert. So I have another question for you.
Okay.
Are you available to go with me to New York to help set it up?
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Okay, perfect. You're on the hook. We're going to New York. After landing on the screen size, I had to adjust the prop size for the thicker screen than I had initially planned for. That meant going back to the 3D models and adjusting most of the pieces. I still had a sizable challenge to solve. Since we wanted to have a large number of fans use this prop, the 3D design of the wristband had to be adjustable, but still look good. I tried several solutions to this, including a segmented design with elastic connectors, similar to like a metal wristband. But that whole thing just would have had to have removable pieces, and it just wasn't a very elegant solution. So what I ended up with is I cut out a section of the wristband on the backside that'll be away from where the photographs of the prop on someone's wrist will be taken. Then I added an elastic adjustable band with Velcro. This should allow fans to quickly get the prop on and off and allow for nearly all spider people to fit the prop. To make sure this design worked, I printed up a test version and brought it to work to let my coworkers test it out. It's finally time to put it all together. The band, the screen, the button, and see if our mock-up was ready for the final resin print. So here's a look at the mock-up in rough material that's been 3D printed. So this is the right scale, not on the same material, it's held together by duct tape, but this gives you an idea of how big the unit is. It's a lot thicker than we thought because of the size of the screen we have to accommodate for. That's what it looks like. Now we have to go ahead and do some touch-up and some detail work on the 3D models, and then print that in the final resin that we're going to make the prop out of, so we can prime and paint the pieces. So I just got the resin prints of all the pieces for the Portal Watch. I cannot wait to get these assembled. Here are the parts, loosely assembled into their correct position before sanding, priming, and painting. So now that we have some of the final resin pieces, here's a look at how we're going to wire up the button that will control via remote control the screens at Union Square. These pieces go together like this. The screen will be in here, and we are going to hide electronics for the RC in this space. We have to have wires that come from this switch, from here, into this passage we've designed within the 3D model, over to our switch. Our red button switch goes here. It's a micro switch. That will be soldered to here. A faceplate will be sitting on top of that, so that when this button is pushed, the micro switch will be triggered. That will connect the 2 points that are currently on either side of this switch, and this switch will be disabled. After having all the pieces designed and printed, we have to glue the parts together, sand them smooth before priming them for paint. The sanding phase does take time, as each section needs to be sanded smooth, then primed, then usually sanded again and again, to ensure that the parts are ready for the final paint to be applied. A high-quality filler primer is ideal for first coats of paint for these pieces, as it smooths out any small imperfections and is also designed to be sanded easily between coats. Regarding the final coat of paint, matching an animated prop color isn't easy. So I tested out 5 different types of chrome paint to see which one I wanted to go with. I used these on test prints I had from earlier in the project. I decided to go with this particular one, and I did primarily because it's a little flatter and less glossy, but still has a lot of depth and shimmer to it. So we're finishing up the Portal Watch. I have this cuff piece that goes on the wrist side of the controller. I need to still paint and install that, but I can't permanently install it because underneath that is where we will be charging the 4-inch tablet that powers the screen. So my plan with that is to go ahead and bury rare earth magnets on either side of the body and then matching ones on either side of this cuff, so that the cuff, once it's finished and painted, will snap into place, but then we'll still be able to pull that off and get access to the recharging port for the screen. Now I have to finish the door. So we know from screen grabs from the trailer that this device changes shape. It starts off small and compact, then the top section and screen pull out to reveal the full screen after a door here is opened, which is what that is over there.
We built most of the rest of these components, but now it's time to go ahead and focus on this door. There's a look at the 3D model against the reference photo with the built-in hinge so that it can go ahead and open up and look similar to that picture. But since there's screens on both sides, I split this piece and created an area, a cutout there that we can put our screens in. And what we will put in there is a design that we created for the inside screen and something based on reference photos for the outside screen. We've cut those down to size, and we can put that in our door, sandwich it back together, and that is what it will look like on the outside. And when you open it up, it will look similar to what the reference photo is there. It's primed and now needs to go ahead and be painted the same color as the rest of the body.
So the final prop looks great, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done on it. But it's time to head to New York and see if it works, and see if we can help a spider person get into the Spider-Verse. So I just landed. I've got the Portal Watch with me. We've got a lot of activities planned here in New York City. We have an influencer screening. We have a cosplayer coming in. All of that depends on all the tech working. So what I'm doing now is meeting Chris at Union Square. Follow me. Hey, Chris.
Hey, hey.
You got in? Found
Yeah.
Union Square?
Did,
Right?
yes. It's great.
So this is one of the screens we're going to be taking over. We've got two different activations. One with the Portal Watch, and the other one is a gesture-controlled interactive display. So which one do you want to start with?
So let's do the Portal Watch here. Go ahead and knock this one out, and then we can go do the gesture.
All right.
Perfect.
Let's dive into it.
All right.
So for the Portal Watch activation, we have installed the RC button in the prop. Now we need to install the receiver end in a media player behind the screens at Union Square so that when the cosplayers push the Portal Watch button, it automatically advances to the next video showing the transition from Spider-World to Spider-World. All right, moment of truth. We have the media player running. We have the Portal Watch. We're in New York City. We're gonna go ahead and try this. Here we go.
Look at that.
New Spider-Verse, right? If I can push the button. That's a successful test.
Nice.
We got this.
Nice.
So this works.
Yep.
Now the much more complicated one. One where our fans can actually use gestures in front of the screen and it control what it does. Of course, we had to test the screens before moving on to the next activation. All right, so this is the second screen that we're gonna do an interactive display on. This one's gonna be gesture controlled. And to make the gestures work, we need a camera and we need a little mini screen so that we can show the audience what they're doing on the camera's capturing.
Right.
So for this to work, we're gonna have to find a place to install that in front of this screen. So you ready to dive in and try this out?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. We have to install a camera and a monitor so that a guest can stand in front of the digital screen and use air gestures to navigate the Spider-Verse displayed on that screen. To make this work, we also have to install another player behind the monitors. All right, so I've tested this and it all works great, but we need a spider person to really run it through its paces. Luckily, I've got a good friend, Jess.
Hello.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I've got the prop that we're gonna give you.
Awesome.
With great power comes great responsibility. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's get this on your wrist. You
Oh,
are set to
wow.
go.
That is so cool.
While building props is immensely fun for me, the best part of the entire process is getting props and costumes into the hands of cosplayers and seeing them bring it to life.
That's so cool.
In the case of the Portal Watch, watching fans enjoy wearing the watch and having it actually transport them to different worlds was the best part of this build.
One and done.
And while we had Jess, we asked her to test out our gesture-activated interactive display.
Get your tickets for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse now in the Regal app.
And like and subscribe if you like what you've seen, and leave a comment about what I should build next. Thanks for watching.